So today's webinar, we're returning to our Spotlight series, and this is our third in the series of webinars on spotlighting the National Police Chiefs Council Digital Data and Technology Awards, which took place last October. Now, around 3.5 years ago, when we had the idea of bringing these awards to life, which are delivered as part of the National Innovation and Digital Summit, we wanted to really recognise the work of those who are working in police technology, what people can the amazing staff and officers who are behind the scenes making things happen to benefit the front line. And now we're planning our next series of awards, the third awards, and we'll be coming on to a little bit of detail about that later and over the next few weeks. But these webinars are about learning best practice, helping people understand what good looks like, and shaping how future nominations will come through. Now, as I've mentioned, this is the third webinar in the series. Each session is featuring the winners, which were announced in October at Merseyside. And again, they'll be running these for the next few weeks, actually months, as we go through these, as we bring a mix of spotlights and ordinary content. So today we're going to go and focus on cybersecurity area. And perhaps it would help to explain why it's so important to remind colleagues that the public really do share the most sensitive information in their lives to the police service, on the understanding that we will share it with the colleagues and partners we need to in order to execute the legal process or the investigation, but on that very clear understanding that we'll protect that information because it is the most personal information people have, and we must protect our systems, our data, to ensure our officers are aware of what's going on and keep that safe. So I'm really delighted to be joined by Mark from Cheshire Constabulary, who talks through their award-winning work for the excellence in cybersecurity. And a reminder, this category celebrates an individual team who have gone above and beyond to ensure the protection of police systems and data from threats or data loss. So, Mark, I think let's go straight into there. And can you tell us a little bit about the challenge that you identified you wanted to tackle?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the work that we've done in this area and for what we received the award for focuses on Active Directory. And if anyone's unfamiliar with Active Directory, this is the main identity management service in use by many organizations worldwide. And in terms of the challenge we're facing in this area, I'm not sure about others, but we've had Active Directory in place for as long as we've had a network. And although the underlying operating system of the domain controllers that host Active Directory will have been upgraded in that time period, we are still talking about technology that has been in place for a long, long time. And if you think about how many account administrators there will have been in that time, or how many people will have had access to create users and edit groups, it's probably highly unlikely that these tasks will have been done in a correct and consistent manner over that time period. And this means that the overall security of Active Directory presents persistent and significant challenges, not just for ourselves, but many organizations worldwide, especially given that Active Directory often still represents the keys to the kingdom for many organizations. And despite differing motives and tactics employed by threat actors to gain access to an organization, you can pretty much bet that once they are in, then Active Directory will be a target at some point. So the primary concern with Active Directory is the prevalence of misconfigurations and privilege abuse. Security teams like ourselves often lack the tools and visibility required to identify these issues proactively. Manual audits are time-consuming and error-prone, and traditional monitoring solutions frequently fail to detect subtle indicators of compromise within AD. There are multiple key industry examples of this that spring to mind. In the news recently, we've had the examples of M&S, Jaguar Land Rover and the Co-op, all examples of where Active Directory has been targeted by threat actors. I'm going to specifically mention an incident experienced by Maersk, and this involved Maersk becoming victims of the NotPetya ransomware attack in 2017. A great example of once the threat actors were in, they targeted Active Directory in order to gain the permissions they needed to fully deploy ransomware and disable the entire infrastructure of the company. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with the Maersk incident in more detail, but the threat Maersk managed to locate an offline domain controller in Ghana that by pure coincidence had not been affected by the ransomware due to a power outage at the site. And this meant that the domain controller was offline when the ransomware was deployed, and Maersk managed to rebuild their entire infrastructure from that single domain controller. However, despite the critical importance of Active Directory as these examples show, many on-prem AD environments are still built on legacy configurations that have simply not kept pace with modern threat landscapes. And Microsoft's pivot to focus on Azure ID or Entra ID, whichever one you refer it to it as, could almost be seen as an abandonment of on-prem AD completely. So these were issues that we were just really conscious of and recognised the need to make improvements in our setup.
So in this webinar, I know we're not going to go into too much detail about everything that's going on, but could you take us through your approach for me, please, Mark?
Yeah, sure. So the initial foundation of our work was from a supplier-led review of Active Directory. This review provided us with initial areas of improvement to focus on and to see where our key vulnerabilities were. We then took the opportunity to participate in a collaborative red team exercise involving partner agencies and the National Management Centre. I can't really go into too much detail other than that one, unfortunately, but the overall purpose of this exercise was to simulate a nation-state attack on a force's infrastructure. So this provided us with a really good opportunity to see how our defences would hold up. We then taken the learnings from those two core exercises to review configurations and implement improvements to our AD setup. And after that, we were able to leverage a separate existing internal contract to undertake some further controlled adversarial testing against AD to almost act as a sanity check of the improvements we'd made, with some hope that the improvements had enhanced the overall resilience of our Active Directory. And finally, I think it was this that possibly secured the award for us. We shared the results of all this work and the findings with the NMC, and this has allowed the NMC to take learning from the reports also, which has led to improved alerting and detection in Sentinel for all forces. So the benefit of all the work wasn't just for us, but for all of policing.
And just for those that aren't aware, the Police Digital Service National Management Centre, or NMC for short, is this 24/7 cybersecurity operations that protects all the forces. So, Mark, when we discussed this webinar and I looked through the awards, you just went on to a second stage of pen testing, didn't you?
Yeah, specifically when it comes to the second pen test, we'd obviously, once we'd made some improvements, we needed some way to check if they'd been successful or not, and if AD was in a better place now than when it was previously. So to do this, we managed to leverage an existing internal contract. So we have an incident response retainer contract that we can use to call on specialist cyber expertise should we experience a significant attack. And this contract comes with a minimum value of service credits. However, if you don't use those credits for response during the time the contract's in place, you can use them as credits for a number of other services that supplier offers. So I was having a look through their service catalogue, and I was obviously delighted to see that they offered an Active Directory adversarial testing service. So this presented an ideal opportunity to not only conduct the sanity testing against AD that I was after, but it also came at no additional cost to the force and ensured that the money we'd invested in the original contract was put to good use as well. As a side note to that, needless to say, I think we'll be very happy if we never have to use that contract for its intended purpose anyway. And we'd far more prefer to make use of the service credits for more proactive exercises when we can. But in terms of the actual adversarial testing conducted by a supplier, this included them running a playbook of 28 different actions or attacks against AD. And these plays aim to gauge the effectiveness of an environment's network security and controls, whilst also measuring the environment's ability to detect different tactics, techniques, and procedures commonly used by threat actors. We were then able to use this report to see how successful we'd been with the improvements we'd made, and also identify further areas that we think we can improve on.
Now, Mark, I explained a little about the NMC a few seconds ago, but it's really important perhaps to hear it from your point of view in a force. So could you explain what the role of the National Management Centre is from your point of view?
Yeah, sure. So the NMC provides nationally coordinated cyber security services to all of police forces across the UK. And as part of this, they provide a 24/7 monitoring service of cyber activity on policing infrastructures. And the sharing of our Active Directory report came at a useful time for both them and us, as the NMC were already embarking on a wider project to assess and improve Active Directory monitoring anyway. So the NMC were able to use the information from our report to create new alerts in Sentinel that would alert our security team if the attack techniques were to be used again on our network. And these alerts have been rolled out to all forces Sentinel environments nationally, so that all forces would be similarly be alerted to these attacks, and therefore the security benefits from this work have been to be able to share it across all the policing. And I think this is probably what won the award for us on this occasion.
So, thinking about your award, so what happened to address the challenges? And as we all know, cyber challenges are always in developing. So, what's going to be your future approach to build on this?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly not naive enough to think that the work we've done in this area will completely indemnify us against a cyber attack against Active Directory, that's for sure. But what we're more looking to do is make incremental improvements in our overall security posture. But specifically for AD, we are exploring some new identity management software that could assist with this. We've got a proof of concept running with a company on this as we speak. And we think this software has the ability to help us improve a number of areas in Active Directory, such as the further securing of specific accounts. We also think it can help us reduce lateral movement across our domain in a very targeted and specific way, and also help by extending the use of MFA to systems and processes that don't naturally have MFA built into them. And I think this is referred to as comprehensive MFA, which the National Cyber Security Centre are very keen to push as almost the next phase of multi-factor authentication. So we'll be working with the suppliers on this in the very near future in the hope that we can continue to make improvements in this area and further secure our Active Directory setup.
So, Mark, you and I have not got into any detail today that could compromise any security. That was been very deliberate. We did want to share on this cyber one as much as we could do, but recognising the sensitivities on this. So, I'm going to ask you a little bit about sharing your experience with the forces through the national groups and the PDS enable and support. And I was going to ask you, why is this award so important to you and your team?
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of what we've done in terms of sharing the results of this work and giving us the platform, that's for sure. So I was recently invited to present at the Police Informational Assurance Forum, which was hosted at the College of Policing a couple of weeks ago. And I ran through a lot of the work we conducted in a lot more detail. And I think this is important because there's a lot we can learn from each other on this topic. And certainly the recognition and the platform that winning the cyber award has provided me with a good opportunity to do this. So speaking at PIAF and doing this webinar has allowed me to raise awareness of the award and encourage forces to complete nomination forms for this year's award also. It's also given me that platform to encourage the sharing of exercises that forces do with the NMC. And I think this really helps improvements to be applied on a national scale and helps us all contribute to the Defend as One ethos.
And Mike, I'm going to bring you in now. You're leading on the coordination of the awards delivery plan for this year. What can you share about the plans for this year right now?
Thank you, David, and Mark, and good morning, everyone. Yes, so we're kicking off the awards and the nomination process over the next few weeks. And before I go into any details, Dave, if I can just, whilst we have Mark with us, because I know Mark wrote the nomination for this award, I'd really love to just get your thoughts, Mark, on what would be your tips for any colleagues who are looking to nominate their friends and colleagues as part of the award ceremony.
Yeah, sure. I certainly didn't think the form was an onerous process as such. It was quite a simple one to complete, really. I suppose what I was conscious of most was getting across how the work that we'd done had helped improve aspects for all of policing. It wasn't just siloed to us in Cheshire. And I also wanted to get in how the vast majority of the work had been done at no additional cost to the force. We know money's tight, so I was keen to emphasise those points as well. And what we'd done has been about more participating in proactive engagements with existing partners and suppliers and making the most of existing contracts. So I was just really clear on emphasising these points in the nomination form, which obviously must have landed well with the judging panel on this occasion.
Perfect, thank you. And I think if I can just build on what Mark was saying, the process that we have in place hopefully won't be an onerous approach for everyone. And the conference that was referred to earlier on, where Mark presented, both Mark and I were there, and there was a previous speaker who was talking about the work that they were doing, and one of the key messages was dare to share. And I think that's the call for everybody who is thinking about putting together a nomination for the work that they and their team are doing, or for a colleague that is really working hard to deliver the best sort of offering available for your force. We need to really recognise these folk, and that's what the awards are here to do. So this is an opportunity for Dare to Share, to that opportunity to share what you're doing within your force, and ultimately bring a spotlight on some fantastic work and initiatives, which we can then potentially bring across for all of policing. So we're going to be running a webinar in the coming weeks to talk about the award process. The details will be coming up over the next week or two to explain how you can create a nomination. And the question, Dave, that you asked with regards to, what is going to be different, what we can share. We ran a session, which was an event which I think across the board was really well appreciated, and the event went down very, very well. But I think also what we have done is we've learned from some of the feedback we had. So things like the audience would love to know more about the nomination and the winner. What is it that set them apart from everyone else that's nominated? And if you've been if you've received a nomination, or if you've put forward a nomination and you haven't made it to the shortlist of the final, why is it that you didn't actually get there? So we're going to be running some events, and we're going to be creating some contents which will help you to understand the lessons we've learned from last year. So that will help with regards to your nomination. But also we will be providing feedback to everyone who does nominate if you don't make it to the shortlisted finalists, just to explain perhaps why you didn't quite get there, and something to bear in mind for future years. But we welcome every nomination. We want to really see everything that's going on within policing that you feel should be recognised for the great effort, the great innovation, and the great direction that you as a force are taking. So we've got the information on the screen there. Dave, I'll hand over to you to take people through the summit details.
Yeah, so you can now pre-register your information if you're keen to attend this year's summit. We are actually increasing the capacity. We were turning people away, sadly, last year because we hadn't built in enough catering capacity for more than 800. We're going to really do that this year. And again, the supplier community, who it's a really important mix of suppliers and technologists from policing senior leaders and the operational policing people who attend this event. So you can register your interest now, scan the QR code if you're from the supplier community, same QR code, fill in the form, and if you're a supplier, we can send you details about how to get involved from that side of it. We will open new registration in the next few weeks. We're just going through some cybersecurity assurance of the delegate management platform, funnily enough, that we're going to be running. So we can get that all in place so you can put your details in securely to do that. But at the moment, this platform will enable us to get that pre-interest in place. We haven't had any questions or comments, and I didn't submit them to particularly today because we are talking about something quite covert and things, and we have been already shared information about this award winning that Mark has already mentioned. But some of the other awards, we are running workshops for them, and one of them is on screen now, where you can scan that QR code, go to the link, and register your details to attend a workshop. And all I'd also point out to those of you in force, you can head over to the PDS Force Collaboration channel, where you'll find the extranet, the collaboration extranet, and there's a calendar on there where you can see the events that we're recommending you get involved in to help move things along, no matter which part of the digital technology and data space you're in. So do keep an eye on that. We are and about today. I'm at the security and policing event, so if any of your colleagues are there, tell them to head over to the Gov Zone and engage with us there. We'll be at the Emergency Services Technology Show in September, and of course the summit, which I've already put details on about that. So Mark, I don't have any more comments or questions for you today, but I really do want to thank you for daring to share today what you've gone through and what you've done through there, and thank you for the nomination. Please do keep involved in what's going on. Now next week, we're keeping the cyber theme going. We are launching CyberNet, which is a new piece of work that Policing Service has been delivering with and on behalf of policing. So join us next Wednesday at 12, where we'll be taking you through a launch of that and how you can get involved. But thanks everybody for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at the next events.